And Hastings was a challenging place to teach because it was such a small district. They don't have any differentiated classes. So all of your really, really bright kids are with your kids that really, really struggle. So oftentimes I had kids in the classroom that were reading at a college level at seventh or eighth grade, right, with kids that were reading at a first grade level. And trying to teach them both was challenging, but I think it really made me a better teacher.
Welcome to the Life in Paradise podcast, the show about creating a life you never need a vacation from. You'll gain inspiration from those who have done it before as we share experiences, strategies, and offer practical steps you can take to live your dream life in paradise. With your host, attorney turned alchemist, Dawn Fleming.
Okay, well, you're in for a treat today. I am with my brother, John Fleming. And as I started to think about who I wanted to interview for our third quarter topic of work that makes a difference, he immediately came to mind because I'm so proud of the work that you do, Brother John. You're amazing. But just a little background on John. He's been a teacher, school teacher now, God bless him, for 13 years. And is teaching ninth grade science. He's also a head football coach for the freshman football team and is also the varsity dive coach, which I don't ever remember you diving.
No, we did not have a dive coach. And so they were they were considering sending our athletes to another school to dive for them. And somebody approached me if I would be interested. And I have a little gymnastics background with CrossFit and stuff like that. And it seemed it was a fine fit. And I knew I was only going to have two athletes. Turns out the dive coach is a co-ed position that pays twice as much as all the other sports. So that was also enticing. But
coaching is coaching, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I've never been afraid to take on something new. And it actually, you'd think the gymnastics would have been a benefit, but it's the Olympic lifting and the quick movements that really, so it's been a good fit. Both my athletes made it to state that in this year. And so, yeah, and I've got a bunch more coming in this upcoming year. So I should have 5 times more athletes than I have I did last year.
Well, I just think that's so cool. Tom and I both were like, wow, that's awesome. Just take on something new. Mm-hmm. You don't really know anything about it, but you'll figure it out along the way. So I really, you have such an interesting meandering path. We both do in terms of our careers and the different things that we've done. And I think people sometimes get frustrated. It's like, you kind of have this expectation, at least I did coming out of college. It's like, oh, it should just be a straight line. Like I get out of school and then I just get a job and then life is good. And then, you just work at the same place for a long time. And neither you or I really had that straight line path. Mm-hmm. And it seems like more and more in our modern era, that just isn't what we've done is more the norm than the straight line. And so I want to talk about the transitions that you've gone through and I think it's really important too. I think the folks in midlife that maybe, like you've experienced, maybe your child is not quite finding their way the way you think they are going to, or they should. And kind of stepping back and going, okay, yeah, I kind of went through some of those things and being able to relate to whether it's your kids or the kids that you teach. I mean, I guess they're all kind of your kids at the end of the day.
For sure.
I want you to kind of take us back because you guys are in really an amazing spot right now, both, you and your wife, and the work that you do is just so impactful. Darcy's a chiropractor, amazing doctor in what she does. And she didn't find her way right away either. She went to chiropractic school later. So take us back to kind of, coming out of high school and that community college experience and kind of what happened? How did it take you to 40 to become a teacher? Not that that's bad, but I think that
no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think in high school, I had no intention on ever going to college. Quite honestly, I assumed I was going to be pounding nails and doing construction and things like that. So the classes I took,
just like our dad, right?
Yeah, exactly. So the classes I took in high school were just kind of to get through. I took a lot of shop, things like that, and I learned a lot from our father, as far as how things work and all that type of stuff. He taught me a lot as far as those things, and that served me really well in life from there. But I thought that's kind of was my path. I know when I graduated high school, right out that first fall. I enrolled in a Hennepin Technical Center, and I did a quarter there. And that was going to be desktop publishing, so typesetting and things like that. Hated it.
See you doing
wound
that.
up not going. Yeah. So that didn't work out. So I did take a job then framing for a company. And then a few months after I had started, was coming around the corner of the house and herniated a disc in my low back. Had some paralysis in one leg. Wound up being diagnosed with 10% permanent disability, actually, back then. And I went, they wanted to do surgery within 2 weeks. I met my chiropractor, who said, give me a chance. And he had me out of pain and the full function of my foot back within about 6 to 9 months. And then not sure what else to do. I enrolled in community college without even ever seeing a counselor. I just said, oh, okay, here's the list of things that I need to be done with college. So I'll just start chipping away at that on my own, not even knowing the process. So at that time, because I'd never even intended to go to college, I didn't know how any of it worked. And so I started that way, played college football. And actually, it was the coaching that started. So those of you who don't know, Don and I have a little brother. And so when he was a third grader, they didn't have a coach for his football team. And they asked me, are you interested? And so I took my first head coaching football job at the age of 16. And I basically coached since then. And so I knew I had enjoyed connecting with kids. I knew I enjoyed teaching them and helping them grow. We didn't win a game that first year. And I had 13 kids that first year, and we added more every single year because the kids had so much fun. So that was something, and I still keep in contact with a lot of those kids that I coached through that age today. But back to that was the other thing, is I was able to play football again even after my injury. So I played football, got my associate's degree. And had intended on moving out to California with my sister Dawn to get my 4-year degree. And our father fell ill. I promised him before he went into surgery that I would not leave until he was okay. 6 weeks later, when he woke up from his the drug-induced coma that they had him under, I was still there. And in the meantime, 2 weeks later, I met my wife, and that was going well. So I stuck around, and not knowing where else to go, I enrolled in Concordia St. Paul, where I got my teaching degree in PE and health.
Let me stop you for a second. As I recall, though, you didn't do that great at Normandale, did you? Didn't you have some struggle?
I had about a 2.0, 2.2 was my GPA. Yeah. Yep. So I was getting through, but I don't know that I was really ready for it. I was working at bars, waiting tables to make enough money to kind of get through it, not wanting to live at home and things like that. So that was part of it.
But the reason I bring it up is not to give you a hard time about it, but
No.
What was remarkable, as I recall, you made the dean's list, or graduated with honors and from Concordia. So it's just I just think it's noteworthy, because a lot of times that happens, right, with kids.
Yeah.
It's not that they don't have the capability. It's there's something else going on,
right?
Whether it's they're not in classes that are of interest to them, or just not a good time, right?
Yeah, and I think some of it too is I was ready for the next part of my life. When I was in junior college, I was experiencing life. I mean, I was just like I said, working at bars, running around, playing a lot of softball, doing those things. And by the time I got to Concordia, I mean, shoot, I was already 22 years old, I think. So I was the old man on the football team, things like that. And then I'd met Darcy. She has made me the man that I am. Having her as a partner, I wouldn't be who I am without her. She inspires me daily to this day. I try to live up to the standard that she sets. So she's really been, having her was a big inspiration. So when I went back to Concordia, I think at the time they didn't charge you extra until you got to 24 credits. And so I would register for 23 and a half credits every semester because I was ready to be done. I was ready to be done.
Right.
So I put a little bit more football there until injuries kind of said that it's time to give it up, old man. Graduated from there. And unfortunately, I had a student teaching experience that was terrible. Basically, the teacher handed me a textbook and a unit plan and said, here's what you got to teach. And I never saw him again. And so it's difficult. It was very difficult. And so by the time I got done with that, I was like, I don't want to do this. And so Darcy was going into enrolled at the University of Minnesota for pre-med. And so I went back to work. So and then I think David moved in with us about that time as well. So we had a 17-year-old, 18-year-old in the house. So yeah, I just went to work. And then Darcy and I opened her first practice in a very small town of about 650.
Well, hold on. You went to work inspecting as a home inspector, as I recall, right?
Yeah, I think I sold window blinds for about 6 months. And then I went to new home warranty at the time, which was a lot of customer service type of things. I did the warranty for a while. And then that was the period where I was the construction manager which was very lucrative. But it was super stressful. I was commuting an hour and a half one way. So from Richfield to Blaine every day. And so that was difficult, but it got Darcy through chiropractic school. So yeah, she finished that up, got done with chiropractic school. About that time, right as she was finishing is when she got pregnant with Hannah. And then wound up with a giant cell tumor in her right hip, which finally broke, required surgery. So we were kind of, it was a hard time to go through, but, again, we made that through it. And I think it's those things in life. Honestly, the reason that we are as kind of tough together is we've been through so many of those things together that there's not much that phases us at this point. So,
well, and isn't that true? I mean, you kind of get, scar tissue, right? And
absolutely.
or like weightlifting, you can build up calluses, right? And
yeah.
it just makes you that much stronger. But and then she came out of chiropractic school and went into the practice, in a town of 600 people that didn't go so well, which impacted you dramatically financially. And then, you just kind of go, okay, what's next, right? And
absolutely.
And what came next was moving out of state.
Mm-hmm. So we looked at our options, whether it was going back to the cities, and there was the city of Hastings. There was a doctor there that was looking for an associate doctor, which meant she got a paycheck right away. The city itself hired me over the phone because they were looking for a building inspector. So we moved down there, packed up everything we owned with not even enough money to pay our first month's rent down to Hastings. So we went down there and just slowly kind of clawed our way back. I was a building inspector for 4 years, I think 4 or 5 years in Hastings. And then finally our health inspector had retired and they decided that they were going to take his job and combine it with mine instead of hiring somebody new. So I became the clean up your crap inspector as well.
That's right.
Yeah. And so it's already bad enough being the building inspector because nobody wants to see you anyway. But I had actually built a really good relationship with most of those builders and those construction guys because I had so much experience in construction that I could give them solutions that would have saved them money. So there was often times they would call me and say, hey, John, can you come out and take a look at this? I got a problem I need to solve. And so I would let them know and they're like, okay, great. So I was really teaching, I was doing that. After the health inspector jobs came to me, I was in court a lot, writing a lot of letters to nasty letters to people and getting sweared out a lot. I was like, this is not what I was meant to do. And I was coaching a lot. And so I decided to go back and get my master's degree. So I went back and got my master's in education with a K through 9 teaching degree because I thought I was going to be a first grade teacher with a science endorsement. And so I went through that, did my student teaching at both an elementary school and a middle school. And the middle school hired me that I was student teaching at before I was done. So that was my job. And so I started there. we were doing that. Darcy and I have always been kind of workout folks and stuff like that. She started to attend
No,
CrossFit.
hold on.
Oh
You
yeah,
two were
go ahead.
competition bodybuilders when you were younger. Let's just
Yeah,
put that in there.
yeah. And so we were exercise people, and like that was one of the things when we lived in Wabasso, that small town. There was no place to work out, so we had kind of lost our way physically as well as mentally and things like that. When we came to Hastings, it was rough. Like, I think that was probably the hardest part of our marriage, because of the trauma that we'd experienced with financially, and the phones ringing with bill collectors constantly, having to, I think I put a roof on Auntie Sharon's garage to get enough money to get our car out of repo. I mean, it was some
Yeah, I remember.
difficult things that we did. And so we struggled as a couple at that point. Luckily for us, the city of Hastings had a counseling program that we could enter. And so Darcy wanted to have another child. And I was like, no, if this is how we're getting along, that's not going to be the case. So we went through some counseling sessions. We had 8 free ones. And I think after 3, I think we were good, just because everything,
Right.
yeah, we got everything out, and
Clear
and that was
forward.
good. At Hastings College, the Kathy Haverly was the woman who ran the Learning Center, and she actually hired me as a graduate assistant. My being a grad assistant paid for my tuition. That was that. So I taught 2 classes of like babysitting classes, basically for students who were at risk of not doing well, and then also worked hours in the Learning Center, which was really nice because at the time that was right across the street from our house. So I rode my bike to school for 2 years while I was getting my master's degree. And so I finished that. I knew that while I was the building inspector, I knew that's not what I was supposed to be doing. I just knew that that's not what my calling was. And then every time I took a clinical class, being in the classroom it felt right. That's where I was supposed to be. And it's funny, I met a kid when I did my first grade practicum, or first or second grade, I can't remember. Trayvon, I think was his name. He's a very troubled young man. And so I spent most of my time with him, just helping him do that. And he was difficulty walking down the hallways without getting in trouble. So I would hold his hand. Well, it turned out years later, I had him as a 7th and 8th grader. And by that time, he had learned that violence was a way to get his way and stuff like that. So they have to clear out the whole room to get him out of there, and nobody would touch him. And I could go kind of de-escalate him a little bit. And I always joke with him, Trayvon, do we need to hold hands down the hallway? And he kind of smile and give up and things like that. So it's stuff like that you just know you're in the right spot. So I taught at Hastings I started as a 7th grade teacher. I taught 7th grade for 3 years. And then at the time, we were really struggling with our state test scores, which are given in the 8th grade. So they asked me if I would move to 8th grade to help get our test scores up. So we worked hard to do that. And my counterpart and I actually got us to an all-time best with their science scores there. Oh, I was going to say, in the meantime, when I was in grad school with the exercise part of it, Darcy was going to Grand Island, which is about 30 minutes away, to do CrossFit classes. And she started that. And I was like, I don't want to do that. And after about 2 or 3 months of that, I was seeing the changes in her, both mentally and physically. I'm like, I think I'm going to give this a go. So we were driving there to do CrossFit twice a week, and because there wasn't one in the city of Hastings. So we emptied out our garage, spent our income tax return on a few barbells and some equipment, and found 4 people to pay us $100 a month to work out in our garage. And 2 years later, we had 6,000 square feet and a few tons of weight and lots of equipment and stuff like that. So we built this business to the point where it needed somebody full time to run it. And so either I was going to stop being a teacher, or Darcy was going to stop being a doctor. And so we sold it to one of our coaches, which was a tremendous weight off our shoulders. And then I think it was a year later, Darcy decided we were moving to Lincoln because we were tired of the small town.
Well, and also too, the area that you were in had some poverty, right? You want to talk about
absolutely.
the types of kids that because I think that's pretty remarkable, for a brand new teacher to be in a difficult environment like that.
Yeah, I would say, I think Hastings has, it's in the 60s. I think at least when I was there, it was mid 60s of free and reduced lunch. And you have to have a certain below a certain threshold of income in order to qualify for free and reduced lunch. That's where most of the federal benefits come once you get those type of things. And Hastings was a challenging place to teach because it was such a small district. They don't have any differentiated classes. So all of your really, really bright kids are with your kids that really, really struggle. So oftentimes I had kids in the classroom that were reading at a college level at 7th or 8th grade, right, with kids that were reading at a 1st grade level. And trying to teach them both was challenging, but I think it really made me a better teacher. Very fortunate with some of the mentors I had through school, some of the people I taught with that really helped me become the teacher that I am all the way through it. And so now I'm trying to give back. I think part of it always makes me laugh a little bit when people say, who is probably the most influential person on you as far as teaching goes? And it was Mike McKay, who was my high school football coach. And he taught me so much. I was extremely fortunate to not even only have him in high school, but when I played and coached at Normandale Community College, he had retired from the high school and was coaching there. So I got to play for him multiple years and then coach with him for a couple of years. So I can't say enough nice things about him. One of my greatest regrets is I was busy during his funeral up in Minnesota. I couldn't go back and visit with him, but I did get several chances. I would call him, just tell him how much I appreciated him and stuff like that. And so the fact that he was a science teacher as well, so
okay.
I'm doing the exact same thing that he did makes me
That's
really
cool.
happy.
We'll be back in a moment.
Isla Mujeres is a Caribbean jewel off the coast of Cancun. Castilito del Caribe warmly invites you to enjoy our spectacular oceanfront villa located in the heart of El Centro and a short walk to Playa Norte, which is ranked one of the top 10 beaches in the world. With an ocean view of crystal clear turquoise waters overlooking both the Caribbean and Cancun city skyline, we offer a fabulous location for you to enjoy all the peace and tranquility you're looking for on vacation, while also taking in all the excitement the island has to offer, with activities either in walking distance or a golf cart day excursion away. Please visit CastilitoCaribe.com, www.CastilitoCaribe.com. We look forward to seeing you soon.
I'm so happy to have you with me for the Life in Paradise podcast. I love our listeners and fans, and we'd love to show our appreciation for you supporting the show. So please head over to lifeinparadisepodcast.com, where you can find free resources mentioned in the show and also register for our gifts, prizes, and swag. I'd also love to hear from you, so there's a place on that page to submit your questions, comments, and requests so I can serve you better. And if I answer your question on the show, we'll send you a free gift. So I know you definitely made a huge difference in a lot of those kids' lives in Hastings. And then with Darcy's career change in moving to Lincoln, I know you guys were wanting to get out of farm community, move your kids into, a little bit more diverse school systems and so forth. So that, I know that was a little bit of a challenging time commuting. She was commuting from into back to Hastings, 2.5 hour drive or something.
Yeah, about that. Yeah, hour and 45 minutes or so. Yeah. So she decided to take the job in August after I'd already committed to a contract. So she lived in Lincoln for that whole year while the kids and I lived in Hastings. So we got through it. It was fine.
But also I think that's smart because sometimes jobs don't work out.
Right.
And so, to uproot 2 kids and then you with your teaching career, who knows whether it's going to work out or not. I think that was in some ways, even though it was a challenging year for you to be able to have that, trial experience to make sure, do I like being in Lincoln? Is this really what we want to do? So, things happen for a reason. But fast forward to the experience in Lincoln. I've been to your house. I love Lincoln. It's really a pretty city. You guys were able to buy a house and a really lovely area with the green belt and walking path back there. And I know, Darcy still kind of was meandering on her path for a few years there. And now, of course, is really in a great situation with the doctor that she's working with. But talk to me about getting hired by the Lincoln district, because I think that's an interesting story, the way that came about, how you ended up at the school that isn't closest to where you live, but really on the other side of town.
Yeah, for sure. So, when, like I said, Darcy took the job in August. So I told my principal in Hastings in August before the school year that would be the end, that I was going to be moving at the end of the year. So that gave them a lot of time to find somebody that way. But just kind of, and I'm not sure when I became kind of a proactive person. I don't know when that switch flipped. But I had reached out to quite a few of the middle schools in Lincoln saying, hey, my name is John Fleming. I'll be teaching hopefully in your district next year. I was hoping I could come visit your middle school for a day when Hastings didn't have school, but Lincoln did. And quite a few, not quite a few, but a few principals reached out and said, hey, yeah, we'd love to have you. So I met Chris Deibler, he just retired last year, but he was the principal at the school I wound up teaching at right away. And he kept me in his school for so long, he made me late for my next appointment. And he kind of laughed because he knew the principal I was going to see. And he's like, yeah, he won't be surprised that I did that. So we took the tour. He told me about the school. It was kind of my interview without an interview. And he said, boy, if I can fit you in the school, I'd really like you to be here. And so that was my first visit. It's interesting because the next principal I went and visited, his name's Ryan Zabawa. I was super impressed with both of the guys. He was a younger guy. He worked at Park, which is a very low income school here in middle school here and they have a wonderful boys and girls club. They served 3 meals a day for students. So not only lunch and breakfast, but also they gave the kids supper. They needed it. So, great program. So I left there thinking, gosh, I would love to work for this guy too. Well, I wound up being hired by Chris at Pound because he had an opening. And then when I moved to North Star, Ryan had taken a job at North Star. So I also got to work for Ryan. He's since moved on to a district position, but both guys I was really impressed with. So I've been very fortunate in my career to work under some tremendous principals. So no, and then I got hired at Pound. It's a 1-year contract. And so LPS allows you to take a sabbatical, and then you're guaranteed you can have your job back when you're done. And so the gentleman I was covering for, he knew he wasn't coming back. His family owns actually several banks in the city. And his family's like, okay, you taught, now you have to come run the family business kind of thing. So we knew he wasn't coming back, but he took the 1 year just in case. Well, because of that, it wasn't a permanent position. And so they had surplused, they'd gotten rid of a job in the district. And the woman who lost the job at the school was also a science teacher. So she took that full-time job. And the next year, the other 8th grade teacher took a sabbatical to go to another country. We knew she was coming back. So she came back, which meant I was surplused again. So I did not have a position, and I'd applied at some of the high schools that were close. I interviewed for that and because I'm only K through 9, I can only teach freshmen. So for whatever reason, those schools decided not to hire me. Well, department chair at North Star, which is on the north end and kind of the poorest side of town, had contacted me because he saw my resume and said, hey, would you mind interviewing with us? It turns out the administrator who was in charge of science, I taught his daughter at Pound. And I said, well, goodness, I don't need a better reference than Ava. And he's like, no, you really don't. So when I don't know if you've ever been in an interview where you've already got the job when they say hello.
Yes.
That's been such a great fit. North Star is extremely diverse. I think we have 36 different home languages at the high school, fairly low income level, certainly much lower than the South Side. I taught for 2 years before I started coaching football again because our daughter was still playing volleyball. So I want to be able to watch her. And so a new head football coach was hired, James Thompson, and he's incredible man. And we kind of interviewed each other for a football job because I wasn't sure if I was ready to come back. And when he told me what he was about, what his program was about, I said, yes, let's do this together. So we kind of dove into that, creating a culture of accountability and high expectations, both academically and athletically within that department. Just yesterday, James had 8 kids stand up and recognize them. Those were 8 kids that teachers had emailed him specifically to say how much they like having them in the class. So we recognize students for high GPA, for high character, This week, what happened was there was one janitor, we're short janitors, which most schools are. There was one janitor in the lunchroom to stack chairs and stuff like that. And one of the football players noticed that the janitor was stacking chairs by himself. So he went over to help stacking chairs. Pretty soon, the entire team was stacking the chairs. The janitor didn't have to stack another chair. They were all good to go, pushed off to the side where they were supposed to be. And so they did that as a group, as a team. So that's what we're trying to do. So we are not trying to develop amazing football players. We're trying to develop amazing young men. And that's been a great experience. Work is super rewarding. Sometimes I pinch myself a little bit as far as what we're able to do, what we're able to accomplish. Our next goal, he's also the assistant athletic director. And so our next goal is to get that culture, that football culture, to permeate into the other sports, because that's definitely the case. And just to raise the culture of the entire school, of that accountability, doing the right thing. That's kind of where we at, how we got there, type of thing. So it's good. It's good. I'm excited about what I'm doing with.
We talked a little bit. We got to see each other 4th of July weekend. It was always fun. It's always fun to hang out with you. But I love talk about what you told me about your retirement with these coaches. You're the old man, and
yeah, I am definitely the elder
groundwork
statesman. And I have to tell you a little bit. So yesterday, I got a lot of kids on the injured list right now. So depending, when we run first defense, I've got a scout defense. And so depending on what we got left for players, I either have to play quarterback. So yesterday I was playing quarterback.
You are?
Oh yeah. Heck yeah. I'm a great freshman scout quarterback. So I'm running the court. So my quarterback came over because he had been playing safety. So I had a quarterback for scout team, but I didn't have a slot wide receiver. And so without having to tell somebody what to do, I'm like, I got this one. So I went out and ran what's called a wheel route, which is a quick out and then up the field. So I ran this wheel route and Josh threw it to me and put it right on me. I come back to the field, it's like, holy cow, Coach Fleming, I didn't realize you were that fast. So yeah, I think I surprised them all a little bit with that. Oh shoot, now I forgot what was your question again?
About
coaching. Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Now I remember. So James and I, like I said, we've got a great thing going on. And so we've had quite a few volunteer coaches. In fact, we've had so many volunteer coaches, we have to tell them, no, we don't really have anything for you to do. And so currently on my freshman staff, I have 2 paid coaches and besides me, and I think we have 8 volunteer coaches that I'm trying to mentor and things like that and help them develop. And then as they're able, they kind of move up to varsity and help out with that stuff as well. So overall, between varsity, JV, reserve, and freshman, we have 9 positions that are paid. And everyone else is volunteers. So currently we have 24 coaches on staff.
Wow.
And that's James and I's goal, is to help develop those guys, help those guys do those things so they can move on. Our current offensive coordinator is Tommy Armstrong, who's the all-time yards from scrimmage leader for this University of Nebraska. We have Alonzo Moore, who also played wide receiver at Nebraska. He's currently playing in the USFL, and then several other athletes that we're hoping will move on. So I'll be at this for a while longer, but my goal is when I retire that I can just hop on one of those guys is going to get a really nice college job and hop onto that.
Or NFL, maybe, right?
Yeah, well, I don't know if I want to go there. But just to spend my retirement still coaching football, doing what I love on somebody's staff and helping out as best I can. So, yeah.
I think that's awesome. And I got to share with you, I went to the Minnesota Gopher football practice this week. They had one open to the public, and it was kind of nice because there really weren't that many people there. Mm-hmm. Tom wasn't able to go with me. He had some other things going on. But when I came back and was talking to him, he was telling me that PJ Fleck has a program, like he had his eyes checked or something, and the doctor's sons went to this orientation. And this isn't just about football. To your point, what you're talking about with these kids, they have this protocol in how they act and what they wear. They have uniforms that they wear in school, and they are really monitored way beyond the football field. Yeah. And it was pretty impressive. And, Tom said, gosh, I wonder if, PJ Fleck could, do some workshops, right, for the high school coaches and
Yeah.
really share
Yeah.
this philosophy. But it sounds like maybe there is a push to, if this is a trend in the coaching arena, I would hope so, because what an impact. I mean, athletics, it's great. There's a lot of discipline and so forth. But like you say, I mean, God bless him, our number one first round draft choice for the Minnesota Vikings just got busted for 140 mile an hour on 94 freeway here.
Yeah.
I think
His dog was
he kind
sick.
of learned
That
a
was
lesson about that.
Yeah.
Thankfully, he wasn't impaired or anything like that. But still, it's like, okay, guys, it's the whole package, right?
It is, absolutely. And that was one of the things I said. We kind of interviewed each other because I had kind of observed the football staff at North Star previous to that, and I was not interested in being part of what was going on. And so I wouldn't say it's super prevalent in in my profession. It's a lot of work. Like what we do is a lot of work. The accountability piece, we're checking all the time, checking attendance. I mean, we run as a team if one student is tardy for the day.
Yeah.
So it's things like, so the expectation is high. If we hear from a teacher, every athlete, so varsity through freshman, ran twice this week because one freshman couldn't act the way he was supposed to do. And he refused to put his tray away. And we ran at the beginning of practice quite a bit. And he actually did stuff 2 days in a row. So he was not a real popular young man, but we don't have, we put our team into troops with 2 troop leaders. They all have a coach. Those troops are then responsible for their members and how they behave, whether they show up. So we build in a lot of accountability. We celebrate success, and we discipline when we're not doing what we're supposed to do. So academically, if you are not passing your classes, you are ineligible to play. And that's not a Nebraska rule. That's a North Star rule. We're fortunate at North Star to have what we call swamp time because it's Gators. So it's our swamp times.
Oh, okay.
And if you are not passing a class, you may not attend practice until you attend swamp time. We had a meeting before the season started, coaches meeting, and everyone stood up and explained why they were coaching football. And to a man, we all said it was because of the relationships we had and how it taught us to be better men in life. And so that's the message we want to give to these kids, that very few of them are going to play beyond high school. And it's the memories that you make and the people in the room that are going to really carry out throughout your life. So that's how we've tried to build our program and to build young men, for sure.
Wow. Pretty serious stuff. And I love seeing you light up when you talk about it, because I can tell how passionate you are about it. And I know the impact that you're creating in people's lives, just like the coach that inspired you and made that difference in your life when you were younger. So I appreciate you so much for being here. I always like to ask one question before I close, and that is there anything I didn't ask you?
Yeah, actually,
share before,
for sure. So I'm sure people would love to hear. So I have a teenage son who just went from 8th grade to freshman level. So he's actually playing for me this year. My son Thomas is in middle school. I think he probably maybe a C average in school. So we've been trying to emphasize to him how important grades are and how important his effort is. Very smart kid, just didn't want to do work and things like that. So he came to practice with me as much as possible last year. So he was our ball boy. So he's actually been around the team quite a bit, but he started with our spring training this spring. He attended every practice all the way through the summer and has been here. And so the growth I've seen in him and the people that he's been around, I can't tell you how excited I am for him. He's around that. We're having conversations about making sure he can be in National Honor Society. He decided it's important. We have an optional period, a 7:00 period. And so he decided to take that first period so he can graduate from high school early, from where he was as a kid that really struggled in school to who he is now. It's a great thing as a dad to see him grow so much. The student athletes that he's around, from the seniors, juniors, sophomores, and even the other freshmen, he's around such a great peer group that holds each other to a high expectation. As a parent, I can't imagine him not being part of that. It's been fantastic. So I think that's a great thing. I get to see it as a coach, but now I get to see it as a dad too, and how important that is to his growth. So yeah,
and
I think that
it really, you'd like to take credit for it, but it sounds like it was really the environment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
100%.
we can only,
Mhm.
the old thing, like, a kid, you tell your kid something and they don't listen to you. And then someone else tells them the exact same thing. And they're like, oh, guess what I heard. Right. And it's gospel. And it sounds like almost that phenomenon that's going on with little Thomas is,
yeah. Well, James will talk about, during at the after break, he's like, well, make sure you're helping your parents out with dishes and getting your laundry and your room cleaned up and all those type of things. And afterwards I'll say, did you feel like he was talking directly to you? I just wondered if he was talking to you. And he'll kind of look at me and shake his head. And so, yeah, that's been fantastic too. As a dad, I'm super excited that he's able to be part of something like this. So.
Well, and I want to add too, you told me last year, I guess it was when I was there for Hannah's graduation, that he had the choice of going to kind of the rich kids school that's near you, or going across town to the more diverse, maybe less affluent school where you teach. And it was his choice. You said, he can pick. And we both were secretly, had our fingers crossed that he would pick your school, and he did.
Yeah.
And you said that seems to be a pretty good decision.
For sure. And he even is enrolled in a unified class. And so what that is it's a combination class of kids that are in life skills. So kids that are at a lower functioning level, that they combine with regular kids and they help each other out. So he actually has met a freshman who is a life skills student that he's going to be in a unified shop with. So they're going to build who knows what, giant paper clips and stuff like that together. And he's pretty excited about that. So the fact that he's willing to do that is, again, it kind of makes me proud. So.
Well, awesome. Lots of words of wisdom in here today, dear brother John. And I know there's lots more. And
attitude and effort. That's everything. Attitude and effort. I say that every single day. The other one is you can show me better than you can tell me.
Excellent.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for this. I really appreciate it. I know you're super, super busy with football and the school year and everything you have going on. So I really do appreciate your time.
Oh, yeah. Love you.
Love you too.
Thanks for tuning in to the Life in Paradise podcast. Did you love this episode? If so, we'd love for you to follow, rate, and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We invite you to tune in every week for more inspired insights and wisdom to create your Somebody Pinch Me reality. And until next time, dream big and act on it daily.